Today we're talking about our top 5 mistakes we made when we started reselling and how to avoid them. Hey, it's Don. Today we're going to talk about some of the biggest mistakes I made when we first started off. I'll give you the top 5 in no particular order. Now, one of our first mistakes that I made was not shipping items properly. Let me give you an example here on that as well. I had sold a 78 record, one of my first ones I ever sold. I didn't realize how fragile they were at the time. I shipped it flat like I would an LP, probably before it even got out of the post office that I shipped it from. It was damaged or destroyed, in all honesty. Didn't realize it. That was a lesson learned right off the bat. It cost me a very angry, upset person because it was a record that you just wouldn't find and couldn't be replaced very well. Was a tragedy. I didn't think of it that much back then. We're talking 20, 25 years ago. So it's been a very, very long time since we've sold that. Again, I've learned from that mistake and I've moved on and I haven't made that same mistake again. We pack very well all of our items because of issues like that. There's other factors you got to take into account. I see all the time where people will send out paper items, delicate items like postcards or books or magazines, unwrapped in plastic. If the package is left outside and it gets wet and there's no plastic protection to actually seal off the item inside, it could be damaged or destroyed. Another example on that as well, I had sold a Wizard of Oz item. It was an ad flyer for the Wizard of Oz. Went for $300, I think $40 or $50. It was an original one. Person wasn't happy with the size, even though that was in the description. I said, send it back just as you received it. He sent it back in a package, just basically a piece of cardboard wrapped around this fragile piece and then stuck a sticker on it. It was delivered to our house and left in a mailbox and was totally rained on. So when we got it, it was totally destroyed. I took pictures of it. You could obviously see he admitted that he didn't actually wrap it. So we fully won that case. Again, you've got to wrap everything. Every single thing I send out is wrapped in plastic and sealed to the best of our abilities, just for that aspect of it. Now, another big mistake tied with the items that you sell is not knowing enough about those items. I'll give you a few examples from our personal experiences. I had purchased a tomahawk for 15 or 20 bucks at a flea market. I didn't think much of it. The handle looked almost fake, but it was wood. I wasn't really sure on it. It did look like it was an early one, and the top of it was a peace pipe type one where you could smoke out of it. So I hadn't seen one like that. I literally put a question mark, is it 19th century, in the listing. It went for $157. This was 20, 25 years ago probably. Once I shipped it out and it was received by the buyer, he was floored away and said this is the oldest one he has ever had, and he went into a big spiel on what it was and the whole works. Turns out we sold something that was probably worth a few $1,000s for $157. Mind you, I did make some money on it. Wasn't like a loss, like I lost or anything. I still made well over $100 on it. But I didn't know enough about that to have sold it. I should have asked around. I should have investigated it. There's a lot of stuff I should have done with that. And I learned from there, if I don't know, I set the item aside. I hold on to it until I can find a consensus of information on value on it. Another item back in that same time frame was a gun cleaning kit for, I believe it was a Mauser from World War II. It was a German kit. And it had the RZM mark on it. I didn't think to do a close-up on it. I just put RZM Eagle and the whole works on it. Sold it for like 80 some odd bucks to this person. And when the buyer got it, he again was floored. It was a specific rare maker by some of the marks on there. And I didn't have a close-up. I didn't go into detail on it. Again, it was an item that was worth several hundred more dollars than I sold it for. Right after those experiences, we stopped selling anything we didn't know what it was. We investigated it, we researched it, we set it aside or did anything else we could to prevent that from happening again. Now, another one of our blunders was not shipping out quick enough. You can get dinged, you can get bad feedback in the whole works, especially when eBay posts the date of estimated delivery on it. So you don't want to procrastinate. You want to get them out. That is a big mistake a lot of people make. 1 day, no big deal, you think. 2 days, no big deal, you think. We ship everything out within 24 hours these days, no matter what. I can tell you it's improved our feedback. It's improved our return customers and the whole works. The overall satisfaction is good when you can get the item out right away. That was part of our problem and part of our feedback issues when we first started out many, many years ago. So fix that up. Don't hold on to stuff. Ship them out right away. Treat every single customer like it's an urgent experience for them, like they need that item tomorrow. Ship it out in a timely manner. So if you don't ship until, say, the weekend or something like that, you need to make sure that your day of delivery reflects that information. So there's options in eBay. You can put how many days it takes you to ship those items out. They better be correct because, again, you don't want people being upset because you're not sending them out right away. This day and age, everybody expects their items to show up quickly. It's a good plus, and it's a good way to get good feedback. Now, another mistake, which was a huge blunder and cost us a lot of time and energy later on, was not marking our storage bins, not storing items correctly. Now, I've talked about this before. When we first started selling postcards, we never anticipated we'd have thousands and thousands of them. Same with our trade cards, paper items, and magazines and books and things along that line. Never ever thought about needing space or marked bins for specific items to be stored in. So we listed a couple thousand items before we realized it was a nightmare trying to find the item. It took us forever. Back when we first started, sometimes we'd have to look through hundreds and hundreds of cards to find one single card. It can be a huge mental blow if you sell something and then you can't find it right away, or you can't find it at all. Now, we've been really lucky and we've been able to find everything, but again, it's taken us hours sometimes to delve into it. From the start, even if you only have a few items, I would always honestly recommend starting labeling bins where you're storing each individual item that you list. Put a custom SKU in the list or put it in the title, put it somewhere in the listing that you'll be able to track down exactly where that item can be found. That's a huge mistake a lot of people make, especially when they're first starting out. If you're a clothing seller and you've got maybe 50 items up, it's pretty easy to tell pants, shirts, and things along that line. But once you've got a couple hundred shirts, a couple hundred pairs of pants, or whatever you are selling, books can be impossible if you don't label them by bins. Looking through rack after rack after rack of just random books can be tiresome, to say the least. So always know where you store stuff and start from the beginning. If you expect to do this or you want to do this for a living, from the very first day, categorize and store them in labeled, numbered locations. It works great. You can look at most of my listings and you will see numbers or designations on where everything is stored. No matter where we sell the item at, whatever platform it is, I have specific ones for that as well. So if items are only on one site, I've got shelves only for that specific platform. And if they're on multiple ones, it's just on overall shelves, so you can label them however you want. Every shelf we have has a number actually painted on the shelves. Every bin that I have has a number that matches and corresponds with all of those as well. So that's a big plus, especially if you start out from the beginning. What we ended up having to do is take a whole bunch of time, hours, to go back and alphabetize, relabel some in the actual listing itself to be able to at least establish where we can find the items relatively quickly. Could have saved all that time, hassle, and aggravation had we started from the very beginning. And the last biggest mistake we made here is not describing every little detail that we could possibly imagine when we list an item. It's hard sometimes to find every distracting factor in something. You know, you're going to still make mistakes. Now, in the past, when we sold clothing, sometimes we missed a stitch in the armpits, or a tag was missing, or something along that line. Something simpleton to us, or something that maybe we didn't notice. Maybe it's not a huge ordeal to you, but it may be to the person purchasing it. A good example would be a postcard or a stamp or something that has a crease in it and you don't list that crease. Or a record that has a skip in it and you don't list the skip in it. So it's things like that that can get you into some trouble, get you some dings on your feedback, can also get you a return as well. Negative feedback is probably the worst of those. We've made those mistakes. I've missed things on clothing. I've missed a cut corner on, say, a dust jacket or something along that line. So you've just got to be very careful and list every tiny little defect you can find. Now, I would also say you want to look at all your items before you purchase them as well. Many times with clothing, we have bought some items and then got them home and found something wrong with it that we just simply missed. Tiny hole, or they put a tag in it somewhere that left a hole in it once that tag was removed from a thrift store, garage sale, or something along that line. So those are always things that you need to be cautious of and leery of. I inspect everything. If I personally can't see or touch the item itself, I generally don't like to buy it. We look through every single item, every single lot, everything we buy, I look through to evaluate it. I don't like to buy things blindly and hope that they are good. Those are usually the auctions, the purchases that I get screwed on most often. So I stay away from that type of thing. It's always best to visually be able to look at the item. And of course, if it passes your eye when you're actually buying it, I would again inspect it before you list it, because you still could have missed something. That's an easy way, as I said, to get a return, to get a negative feedback, and such forth. It'll cause a ding on your account depending on how your return policy is on stuff like that. We have a 30-day free return, so if somebody does return anything, it can't go against us. Once it's returned and I refund their money, they can't ding us for that experience. So again, that's how those returns work on there these days. Those are mistakes that I have made personally, all of those. Many more mistakes we've made as well, too. Everybody's going to make some mistakes. Just learn from them. Don't make them a second time. Now, in my mind, if you're not making mistakes, you're probably not learning. So I always try to dig in. If I make a mistake, no big deal. I just move forward. I don't keep dwelling on it or anything like that, because they're going to happen. Don't dwell on the mistakes either. They're going to happen. Everybody has them happen. Again, as I said, we've had many, many mistakes in our days. Hopefully from our mistakes, that gives you some ideas on what not to do on eBay or reselling in general. But that's what I have for you today. Hopefully that gave you some ideas, some thoughts. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button down below. You can also hit the bell icon to be notified if I post new content or go live. Subscribe and tell all your friends.
It's a week of awesome excitement as Jace and the Lightning League face the forces of evil from every corner of the universe and the ferocious powers of the galaxy's most menacing magicians. There's danger at every turn as Sawboss unleashes the monster minds for the ultimate victory. Watch as lightning strikes on Jace and the Wheeled Warriors.
The excitement continues on the special adventure today at 3:30 on WDZL Channel.